Delhi by Vandana Singh. Tonight he is intensely aware of the city. Its ancient stones, the flat-roofed brick houses, roads choked with traffic. There's a bus going over the bridge under which he has chosen to sleep. A man is lighting a bidi near him, face lean, half in shadow, and he thinks he sees himself. "My name is Asim," he says. The man glares at him and spits. Asim steps back in a hurry. No, that man is not Asim's older self. He leaves and makes his way through the litter to the neon-bright highway. The new city is less confusing. The colours are more solid, the lights dazzling, so he can't see the apparitions as clearly. When he was younger, he thought the apparitions were ghosts of the dead, but now he knows that is not true. Now he has a theory that his visions are tricks of time, tangles produced when one part of the time stream rubs up against another and the two cross for a moment. He knows he is not the only one with this ability, because some of the people he sees also see him and shrink back in terror. The thought that he is a ghost to people long dead or still to come both amuses and terrifies him. He's seen more apparitions in the older parts of the city than anywhere else, and he's not sure why. There is plenty of history in Delhi, no doubt about that. In medieval times alone, there were 7 cities of Delhi, he remembers, from a well-thumbed history textbook. And the 8th city was established by the British during the days of the Raj. The city of the present day, the 9th, is the largest. Only for Asim are the old cities of Delhi still alive. He wishes he could discuss his temporal visions with someone who would take him seriously and help him understand his peculiar malady, but ironically, the only sympathetic person he's met who shares his condition happened to live in 1100 AD or thereabouts, the time of Prithviraj Chauhan, the last Hindu ruler of Delhi. He was walking past the faded white colonnades of some building in Connaught Place when he saw her. An old woman in a long skirt and shawl, making her way sedately across the car park, her body rising above the road and falling below its surface, parallel to some invisible topography. She came face to face with Asim, stopped and put a wondering arm out toward him. "What age are you from?" she said in an unfamiliar dialect of Hindi. He did not know how to contain the sharp shock of joy. She, too, had looked across the barriers of time and glimpsed other ages. She named Prithviraj Chauhan as her king. Asim told her he lived some 900 years after Chauhan. They exchanged stories of other visions. She had seen armies, spears flashing, and pale men with yellow beards, and a woman in a metal carriage, crying. He was able to interpret some of this for her before she began to fade away. He started toward her as though to step into her world, and ran into a pillar. Sometimes he stops at the India Gate lawns in the heart of modern Delhi, and eats ice cream, sitting by one of the fountains that Lutyens built. Watching the play of light on the shimmering water, he thinks about the British invaders. They built these great edifices, but even they had to leave it all behind. Kings came and went, the Goras came and went, but the city lives on. Sometimes he sees apparitions of the Goras, the pale faces, walking by him or riding on horses. Each time he yells out to them, "Your people are doomed, your empire will crumble." Once in a while they glance at him, startled before they fade away. In his more fanciful moments, he wonders if he hasn't caused history to happen in the way it does. But he knows that nobody he has communicated with is of any real importance in the course of history, and that he is simply deluding himself about his own significance. Still, he makes compulsive notes of his more interesting encounters. But because the apparitions he sees are so clear, he is sometimes not certain whether they belong to this time or some other. Only some incongruity, spatial or temporal, distinguishes the apparitions from the rest. Sometimes he sees landscapes too, a skyline dotted with palaces and temple spires, a forest in the middle of a busy thoroughfare, and strangest of all, once an array of tall, jewelled towers reaching into the clouds. Each such vision seems to be charged with a peculiar energy, like a scene lit up by lightning. There are certain places where he sees, he thinks, the same people again and again. For instance, while travelling on the metro, he almost always sees people in the subway tunnels floating through the train, their faces pale and unhealthy as though they have never beheld the sun. The first time he saw them, he shuddered. The metro is quite new, he thought, so what I saw must be in the future. One day, he tells himself, he will write a history of the future. The street is Nai Sarak. New road, it means, but this road has not been new in a very long time. The ground floors of houses are taken up by tiny, musty shops containing piles of books. It is a hot day and there is no shade. The girl he is following is just another Delhi University student looking for a bargain, trying not to get jostled or groped in the crowd. Asim hasn't been here in a long time. He is not prepared for any of this. The brightness of the day, the old stone walls enclosing him in people and sweat and dust. He's dazzled by the white kurtas of the men, the neat beards and the prayer caps. This is the Muslim part of the city, Old Delhi. Among the crowds that throng these places, he has seen the apparitions of courtesans and young men, the blood and thunder of invasions, and the bodies of princes hanged by British soldiers. To him the old city is like the heart of a crone who dreams perpetually of her youth. Asim hasn't been able to get a proper look at the girl who's caught his attention. All he's noticed are the dark eyes and the death in them. After all these years, he's learned to recognize a certain preoccupation in the eyes of some of his fellow citizens, the desire for the final anonymity that death brings. Sometimes, as in this case, he knows it before they do. He loses sight of her for a moment, but there she is, walking past the mosque to the bus stop. He sees her struggling through the crowd toward a bus, and at the last minute she's right in its path. It's an immense green and yellow monstrosity bearing down on her. This is Asim's moment. He lunges at the girl, pushing her out of the way. There is a roaring in his ears, the shriek of brakes and the conductor yelling. She's trembling with shock. In her eyes, he sees himself for a moment. A drifter, his face unshaven, his hair unkempt. He tells her, "Don't do it, don't ever do it. You have a purpose you must fulfill." He repeats it like a mantra. Although he knows she's not the woman he is seeking, he pulls out the computer printout just to be sure. No, she's not the one. Cheeks too thin, chin not sharp enough. He pushes one of the business cards into her hand and walks away. He remembers all too clearly the first time someone gave him one of the cards. Worried about your future? Consult Pandit Vidyanath, computerized and air-conditioned office. Discover your true purpose in life. There is a logo of a beehive and an address in South Delhi. Later he will write up this encounter in his notebook. In 3 years he's stopped young men from flinging themselves off bridges, he's prevented women from dousing themselves with kerosene, from murderous encounters with city traffic. All this by way of seeking her whose story will be the last in his book. But the very first story is his own. 3 years ago, he is standing on a bridge over the Yamuna. There is an odorous fog in the air, the kind that mars winter mornings in Delhi. He's tired of the apparitions that have always plagued him, tired of the endless rounds of medications and appointments with doctors and psychologists. 2 months ago, he stopped attending his college classes. His mother and father are dead. There will be no one to mourn him. Last night he tried, as a last resort, to leave Delhi, hoping that perhaps the visions would stop. He got as far as the railway station. "Name?" said the man behind the ticket counter, but Asim couldn't remember it. All he could think of were the trains, hissing softly like snakes, waiting to take him away. The thought of leaving filled him with a sudden terror. He turned and walked out of the station. Outside he breathed deep, fierce breaths of relief, as though he had walked away from his own death. So here he is, standing on the bridge, shivering in the fog. He notices the seedling of a pipal tree growing on the outside of the rail. He wonders which will fall first, the pipal tree or the bridge. Just then he hears a bicycle on the road behind him. Before he knows it, some rude fellow with a straggly beard has pulled him off the railing and onto the road. "Don't be a fool, don't do it," says the stranger, breathing hard. He pushes a small card into Asim's unresisting hand. The address on the card proves to be in a small marketplace near Sarojini Nagar. Asim finds himself before a door with a small sign saying, "Pandit Vidyanath, Consultations." He goes in. The Pandit is not in, but his assistant, a thin, earnest-faced young man, waves Asim to a chair. He is sitting behind a desk with a PC, a printer, and a plaque bearing his name. Om Prakash, BSc Physics, failed. Delhi University. There is a window with the promised air conditioner, apparently defunct, occupying its lower half. On the other side of the window is a beehive in the process of completion. Asim regrets already the whim that brought him here, but the beehive fascinates him, how it is still and in motion all at once, and the way the bees seem to be in concert with one another. Om Prakash assures Asim that the bees are harmless and tries to interest him in an array of bottles of honey on the shelf behind him. Asim shakes his head and Om Prakash gets down to business with a clearing of his throat, asking questions and entering the answers into the computer. By now, Asim feels like a fool. "How does your computer know the future?" Asim asks. Om Prakash makes a deprecating gesture with his long, thin hands. "A computer is like a beehive. Many bits and parts, none is by itself intelligent. Combined together, and you have something that can think. This computer is not an ordinary one, built by Pandit Vidyanath himself." Om Prakash grins as the printer begins to whir. "All persons who come here seek meaning. Each person has their own unique purpose. We don't tell future because future is beyond us, Saab. We tell them why they need to live." He hands a printout to Asim. It consists of X's arranged in an apparently random pattern. He holds it at a distance and sees, indistinctly, the face of a woman. Who is she? It is for you to interpret what this picture means. You must live because you need to meet this woman, perhaps to save her or be saved. She could be your sister or daughter, a wife or stranger. There are dark smudges for eyes, the hint of a high cheekbone, and swirl of hair across the cheek. The face is heart-shaped, narrowing to a small chin. But this could be almost anyone. How will I know? You will know when you meet her, Om Prakash says with finality. There is no charge. Thank you, sir, and here are cards for you to give other unfortunate souls. Asim takes the cards and leaves. He distrusts the entire business, especially the bit about no charge, in a city like Delhi. But despite his doubts, he finds himself intrigued. That Asim must live simply so he might be there for someone at the right moment. What an amusing, humbling idea. As the days pass, he comes to believe it. He scans the faces in crowds, looking for her. He lives so that he will cross her path some day. For 3 years he has convinced himself that she is real. He's made something of a life for himself, making deliveries for shopkeepers in Defence Colony who pay enough to keep him in food and clothing. He's handed out hundreds of the business cards and visited the address in South Delhi dozens of times. He's become used to the bees, the defunct air conditioner, and even to Om Prakash. Asim has told him about the apparitions. Om Prakash receives these confidences with his rather foolish grin and says he will tell Pandit Vidyanath. Only each time Asim visits, there is no sign of the Pandit. So he now suspects that Om Prakash himself is the unlikely mind behind the whole business. But sometimes he is scared of finding the woman. He imagines himself saving her, realizing at last his purpose. But after that, what awaits him? The oily embrace of the Yamuna? Asim hasn't slept well. Last night the police raided the Aurobindo Marg sidewalk where he was sleeping. Some foreign VIP was expected in the morning, so the riffraff were driven off by stick-wielding policemen. Asim is smarting with rage. Death lurks behind the eyes of the populace, but for once he is sick of his proximity to death. So he goes to the only place where he can leave behind the city without actually leaving its borders. Another anomaly in a city of surprises. Amid the endless sprawl of houses and crowded roads, there lies an entire forest. The Delhi Ridge. Only a little way from the main road, the forest is still, except for the subdued chirping of birds. He curls up under an acacia tree and dozes off. Some time later, he hears a tapping sound, soft and regular. He sees a woman, a young girl, on the path in front of him, holding a cane before her. She's blind, obviously, and lost. This is no place for a woman alone. He clears his throat, and she starts. Is someone there? She's wearing a long blue shirt over a salwar of the same colour. The thin material of her dupatta drapes her head, half covering her face. He looks at her and sees the face in the printout. Or thinks he does. You are lost, he says, his voice trembling with excitement. Where do you wish to go? Naya Devas Lane, good sir. I'm travelling from Jaipur. I came to meet my sister, but I lost my papers. They say you must have papers, or they'll send me to Nichi Delhi with all the poor and the criminals. I don't want to go there. My sister has money. Please, sir, tell me how to find Naya Devas. He's never heard of Naya Devas Lane or Nichi Delhi. New Day Lane? Lower Delhi? What strange names. There aren't any such places. Somebody has misled you. Go back to the main road. There is a marketplace. I will come with you. Nobody will harm you. We can make inquiries there. She thanks him, her voice catching with relief. She tells him she's heard many stories about the fabled city and its tall, gem-studded minars that reach the sky, and the ships, the silver undang katalas that fly across worlds. She's very excited to be here in the immaculate city. His eyes widen. He gets up abruptly, but she's already fading away. The computer printout is in his hand, but before he can get another look at her, she's gone. What has he told her? Where is she going? In what future age, buoyed by the hope he has given her, which, he fears now, may be false? He looks at the printout again. Is it mere coincidence that the apparition he saw looked like the image? What if Pandit Vidyanath's computer generated something quite random, and that his quest has been completely pointless? There's only one thing to do. Go to Om Prakash and get the truth out of him. He takes the metro. At one of the stops he sees the apparitions of people, their faces clammy and pale. He smells the stench of unwashed bodies too long out of the sun. He knows they are from some future he'd rather not think about, but now it occurs to him with the suddenness of a blow that they are from the blind girl's future. Lower Delhi, Nichi Delhi, that is what this must be. A city of the poor, the criminal. He thinks of the metro, its tunnels abandoned to the dispossessed, and the city above, a delight of gardens and gracious buildings. By the time he gets to Vidyanath's shop, it is late afternoon. At the bus stop where he disembarks, there is a young woman sitting, reading something. She looks vaguely familiar, but he notices her only peripherally. He bursts into the room. Om Prakash is reading a magazine. "Look, Om Prakash, something serious has happened. I met the young woman of the printout, but she's from the future. I need to find her. You must get Vidyanath for me. If his computer made the image of her, he must know how I can reach her." Om Prakash shakes his head sadly. "Panditji speaks only through the computer." He looks at the beehive, then at Asim. "Panditji cannot control the future. You know that. He can only tell you your purpose." "But I made a mistake. I didn't realize she was from another time. She could be in danger. It is a terrible future, Om Prakash. There is a city below where the poor live, and above the ground there is clean air, no dirt or beggars, like when the foreign VIPs come to town and the policemen chase people like me off the roads." Asim takes Om Prakash by the shoulders. "Tell me, do I have a choice in what I do, or am I simply repeating lines written by someone else?" "You can choose to break my bones, sir, and nobody can stop you. You can choose to jump into the Yamuna. Whatever you do affects the world in some small way. Sometimes the effect remains small, sometimes it grows, and grows like a pipal tree. The future, Panditji says, is neither determined nor undetermined." Asim releases the fellow. He feels emptied of hope. As he leaves, he turns to ask one more question. "Tell me, this Pandit Vidyanath, if he exists, what is he trying to accomplish? Who is he working for?" "Pandit Vidyanath works for the city. Otherwise, he works only for himself." Asim goes out into the warm evening. Over the chatter of the city, he can hear the distant buzzing of bees. At the bus stop, the half-familiar young woman is still there, studying a computer printout. He sits on the cement bench in a daze. 3 years of anticipation, all for nothing. He should write down the last story and throw away his notebook. The woman clears her throat, and then he remembers. The girl he pushed away from a bus near Nai Sarak. She's holding the page out to him. "Can you make any sense of that?" He frowns at the paper. "Sorry, I don't see anything." She says, "You could interpret it as a city skyline with tall towers. Who knows? Considering that I'm studying biochemistry and my father really wants me to be an architect, it isn't surprising that I see those things in it." He makes what he hopes is a polite noise. "I don't know. I think Om Prakash is a bit of a fraud. And you were wrong, by the way. I wasn't trying to kill myself that day." She's sounding defensive now. He knows he was not mistaken about what he saw in her eyes. "Still, I came here on an impulse, and I've been staring at this thing and thinking about my life. I've already made a few decisions about my future." A bus comes lurching to a stop. She hesitates. He knows she wants to talk, but he keeps scratching away in his notebook. At the last moment, she climbs aboard. The look he had first noticed in her eyes has gone, for the moment. He finishes writing, and with a sense of inevitability that feels strangely right, he catches a bus that will take him to the Yamuna. At the bridge, he looks into the dark water. The pipal tree still grows in a crack in the cement. The municipality keeps uprooting it, but it is buried too deep to die completely. He wishes he had given his notebook to someone, like that girl at the bus stop. He can't make himself throw it away. He's preparing to climb onto the wall of the bridge when he hears somebody behind him. "Wait!" He turns. It is like looking into a distorting mirror. The man is hollow-cheeked, and the untidy thatch of hair is streaked with silver. He holds a bunch of cards in his hand. A welt mars one cheek, and his left sleeve is torn. "Asim," says the stranger who is not a stranger. "Don't." He is already starting to fade. Asim's first impulse is a defiant one. What if he were to jump into the river? It would be his way of bowing out of the game that the city's been playing with him. But the impulse dies. He thinks instead about Om Prakash and death sleeping under the eyelids of the citizenry. He sits down slowly and covers his face. After a long while he stands up. The road before him can take him anywhere. The dusty by-lanes and broad avenues and crumbling monuments of Delhi lie before him, the noisy marketplaces, the glitzy enclaves with their citadels of the rich, the boot boys and beggars at street corners. He has just to take a step and the city will swallow him up, receive him the way a river receives the dead. Staring unseeingly into the bright clamour, he has a wild idea. He recalls a picture he saw once in a book when he was a boy, a satellite image of Asia at night. There were knots of light stretching out like tentacles into the dark. He wonders whether complexity and vastness are sufficient conditions for a slow awakening, a coming to consciousness. He thinks about Om Prakash and his strange intimacy with the bees. Will he tell him who Pandit Vishwanath really is, and what it means to work for the city? He thinks not. What he must do, he sees at last, is what he has been doing all along. Look out for his own kind, the poor and the desperate, and those who walk with death in their eyes. The city's needs are alien, unfathomable. It is an entity in its own right, expanding every day. Now it is burrowing into the earth, and even later it will reach long fingers towards the stars. What he needs most at this time is someone he can talk to. There was the girl at the bus stop. She wanted to talk. He remembers the printout she had shown him and wonders if her future has something to do with the Delhi to come, the city that intrigues and terrifies him. He wishes he could have asked his future self more questions. He is afraid because it is likely that some kind of violence awaits him, a struggle that looms indistinctly ahead, that will cut his cheek and do untold things to his soul. But for now, there is nothing he can do, caught as he is in his own time stream. He picks up his notebook and staggers into the night.